If an action or a policy has a suspected risk of causing harm to the environment or the public in the absence of scientific consensus that the action or policy is harmful, the burden of proof falls on the one who's taking the action. That is why when you say, well, we've got all these scientists over here that say that global warming, climate change is not true. Well, we've got 100 scientists. Well, we've got 200. Well, we've got 1,000. Well, we have 30,000. We have 50,000. We have... It's in the absence of scientific consensus. In other words, you are guilty until proven innocent. Now, in the United States, the precautionary principle, or, well, just think about it for those endangered species that you don't have on your property. Okay, so you're guilty until proven innocent, and this is how it works. Now, in the EU, the European Union, that makes law. They don't even define it, but somehow it makes law. In the United States, we call it the precautionary approach, and it makes policy. It's not supposed to make law, but it does. You'll find this informing your law. This is a global plan, but it's implemented locally. That is its strength, but it's also its weakness, isn't it? Because that's where we are. We are local. The people who are implementing this plan are our neighbors. They're our friends. They are people we work with. They might be us, and we just don't realize it. And that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to talk about that. So, like I said, 1992, Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit, Bush and 178 other leaders signed on to it. Later that year, Clinton got elected, 1992, right? November, he took office. By the next year, 93, June of 1993, he had created the President's Council of Sustainable Development. That was produced and that was specifically created to implement Agenda 21 in the United States. That was what it was for. Who was on that? The President's Council on Sustainable Development. 12 cabinet-level secretaries, including Education, Transportation, HUD, EPA, Department of Transportation, that's right, Defense, Interior, Education, did I say that? A whole bunch of them. Besides them, you found, and their task was to put this into all of the government agencies, implement it administratively, but it wasn't all that was on that President's Council of Sustainable Development. There were also captains of industry, like Ken Lay from Enron, Dow Chemical. You had, besides them, you had, and you know, of course, other energy companies. You had, Monsanto was not on there. You had environmental groups like Sierra Club, that's right, the Natural Resources Defense Council, World Wildlife Fund, okay? Now what did they do? They've got this big unwieldy thing, they've got to change our lives, totally. Change the way we see our world, change the way we use our property. It's mainly implemented as a land use document. So what did they say? They said to the American Planning Association, which is a private firm, a private organization, non-governmental, non-profit. They said, will you do us a favor if we give you a few $1 million? Will you come up with a way to get this into every single university, every college, and every planning department in the entire United States? And they said, sure, we'll do that for you. And they did. It took them about 6, 7 years. They came up with Growing Smart, legislative guidebook with model statutes for planning and the management of change. Change. There are a lot of jargon terms that go with this. Things, what is jargon? It's a language all on its own that means something entirely different to us who are not in the know than it does to the people who are connected. Change to us means either what we've got in our pocket, or it means something that, you know, is just sort of organically moving forward. But change in the jargon of sustainable development means total transformation, destruction, and complete reversal of what you are what you have come to expect for property use and property and land value in your country, and for your jurisdictions and how you elect officials. So that's what we're looking at. Growing smart is smart growth. That's where that term comes from, smart growth. Now, you might have heard that term, you might not have, but what it is when you go out there in your town and you look around and you see this in the center of your town, you're going to see high density development that is mixed use. Mixed use. Is that a bad thing? Do I care if you have a ground floor retail shop with apartments above? No, I don't care. You want to go get a loan and do that? It's very difficult to get a loan for because you've got two different risk rates for that. Oftentimes your commercial is going to be vacant. Your upstairs condos might not be filled. You've got a lot of risk there. Okay? It requires subsidies mostly. You will find that your property tax and your transportation tax dollars are going to subsidize private development. So that's what it is, smart growth. Ground floor retail, 12 feet high, built right to the edge of the sidewalk. Right above that, 2 to 3 or more stories of residential condos or apartments above. In an alley around the back, you've got parking accessibility for 1 vehicle per unit or less. Around the front, you've got down the street a line painted for a bike lane. Or you might have that train that doesn't really exist but is taking your half-cent or quarter-cent sales tax from now until the choo-choo blows. You've got, and maybe you have a bus. Okay, so there's you're looking at transit villages now. You thought you lived in a town, but now you are going to find that you have human habitation in a transit village. Growing smart. Growing smart. Legislative guidebook with planning, with model statutes for planning and the management of change. Okay, now you thought if you work for a city or a county, or if you're elected official and you get your planners come before you and they hand you some ordinance or statute or something, some new law that they didn't come up with that. That comes out of a box of laws and statutes. An incremental box for where you want to move to tighter and more restrictive rules for what you can do with your property. So by 2002, every single planning department in the entire United States, every college, every university had this book on their shelves. Now, I didn't bring the whole book with me because it weighs 12 pounds. But I brought the cover of it. It's in here somewhere. I'll show it to you in a minute when I find it. Here it is. This is the cover. If you're an elected official, I invite you to go into your planning department and take a look at this book. It is there. What else did they do, the President's Council on Sustainable Development? They said, you know, the people of the United States are not going to be too happy when they find out about this. They're just not going to like it. So what are we going to do? We got to get them to get on board with it. We need a whole new way of thinking. So there was another book that they did. It's called Sustainable America, A New Consensus. Now, consensus, you know what consensus is. It's agreement of all parties. If we all get together in this room, we want to do something, we're going to hear from everybody, we're going to work it out, we're going to stay in here all night until we all decide on something. That's consensus, right? But a new consensus is neutralization of the opposition. Neutralizing your enemies. That's what you're going to see in your government meetings. That's your government at work. When you come into a meeting and you find police in the room, you find men with guns in the room because you might say something, well, that's a new consensus. Yeah. So, what is this about? You go to your visioning meeting, your BCC 2035, your visioning meeting. What's that all about? They use what's called the Delphi technique on you. That is the Rand Corporation mind control technique developed during the Cold War. It was designed to bring groups of people to a predetermined outcome while giving them the impression that it was all their idea. That's right. You're looking at it. Not now. I'm not doing it to you. But you're going to find that, no, I want you to think for yourself. I know there's people in here who don't like what I'm saying now. You'll have your chance. You can ask me any question, and I will stay here all night and answer every single question anybody has. This is not something I believe like with faith. This is something I know is true. Amen. Okay, so what does this mean? We're talking about what is it to live in a free country? I ask you, what makes us different from China, really? That is that we have the power to dissent and not be taken off to jail or killed. When they take that away from us, do we still have a free nation? When we're in a meeting and there are police officers on the walls and we are told that this is our plan, that you came up with this plan, that we're doing a visioning meeting, and it looks just like the same plan that is in every single city and town and county and state and nation. I'm talking about BCC 2035, looking just like, what does it look like? It looks like Imagine 2040, it looks like Imagine 2035, it looks like one Bay Area, it looks like one valley, one vision, it looks like 4 states, one vision, it looks like 6 counties, one vision, it looks like one New Zealand, it looks like Hanoi Regional Center 2035, Hanoi, Vietnam. Oh yeah. They do change the names of the streets, so it's not entirely the same. That's consensus. Neutralization of the opposition, that's you. So, just in case you think I'm making this up, here we go. What is this? This is this cute little book. It's called Rescue Mission, Planet Earth, a children's edition of Agenda 21. Yes, that's right. Your children and grandchildren are being manipulated through outcome-based education. I had this little booklet. Where did it go? I want you to hear this. This is the little work booklet, children's activity booklet. It says, turning Agenda 21 into action is a big challenge for us all. Thousands of people at the United Nations and in governments are working on it. This booklet will show parents and educators how children can be a part of this work. Yeah, by Boutros Boutros-Ghali of the United Nations and the children of the world. As I say, I bet they're getting their royalties. So the idea, taking it back to greenhouse gases, because that's where we're at. This is the justification, this is the explanation, this is why, this is the whole big thing. We're destroying the planet, we've got to deal with it. The idea is that life in the suburbs and the rural areas is unsustainable because we produce too many greenhouse gases. It's that evil sprawl. That's where you live. In fact, that's where most of your state is. That's what your state is, except for your 4 towns. Nashville, Memphis, Chattanooga, Knoxville. Everything else is sprawl. Okay, it costs too much. This is the green mask. It costs too much to get public transportation out to you in your sprawl. And we don't want you driving your car because you're releasing too many greenhouse gases. So that's the justification for moving everyone into the dense city centers where you can be managed and controlled. Now, you might think I'm kind of crazy for saying that right now, but I guarantee you by the end of the time that I'm done, you're not going to think that anymore. So how do they do it? They use ICLEI, which is the International Council of Local Environmental Initiatives. Except it was. Now, because we're all hip to them, they're calling themselves Local Governments for Sustainability. Local Governments for Sustainability. What are they? They are a non-governmental